Hi, everyone. This is session 6 of the Mentoring Support Program, and this one is about the index of evidence. Quite short little session, but I think it does deserve its own moment in the sun. So I've tried to familiarize you with the index of evidence, which of course links directly to our last session, the mentoring agreement, and in particular, the learning needs and opportunities. And perhaps you'd be in a better position to guide the apprentice on how to complete this. So the apprentice should start to gather evidence from the start of their program, things that they have done, learning that has occurred. And they'll do that throughout the course, and they'll map it against the relevant standards, so on and so forth. So by the end of the course, they'll have met all the standards several times. But really, the first year of the course is also about getting used to how we do things and building up a series of good habits that will carry them forward over the 3 years. We're always kind of thinking, well, what happened if we did get an inspection, say, or somebody came in, like Social Work England or the apprenticeship people or whoever it happened to be, and randomly sampled work? Would it stand up to external scrutiny? So we always have that a little bit in the back of our minds when we're thinking about this. So it's a record of all the relevant activities the apprentices undertake, but not every single thing. They must be aligned against the appropriate professional standards. And for the first year, it's the RDP level of the PCF. And in the first semester, the first term, roughly September to December, we only ask them to focus on the PCF because it's give them a chance to get their heads around that first. And then in the second term from January, we introduce the IATE also. I was having a bit of difficulty saying that acronym. So this is what the thing actually looks like. It's got a kind of little bit of blurb at the top, kind of go through it a little bit, a list of standard abbreviations and so on and so forth, a note about GDPR and making sure that your work is confidential. Mainly people don't make mistakes with the confidentiality, but they do every so often, and that can get us all into trouble as it happens. It is collaboratively, but it is their job to keep the index up to date. They enter the materials, but you regularly check in with the apprentice and see it. And it is signed off at various times by either or the mentor and the SRA. So it really, when you were signing this off, you were acknowledging that this actually did happen and that this evidence is available in the workplace, as it were. And if we follow the links from the index, there isn't actual kind of click links, if you see what I mean, but that we will be able to find the actual evidence in the workplace. Good idea to confirm existing knowledge and skills at the start of the course. It doesn't all have to be about new learning. And then in any event, a lot of the things that they kind of know and do are seen in a different light. They are kind of starting to think about what they do in terms of being a learner who is going to be a social worker. So it gives you kind of slightly different perspective of things. So the quality of the evidence is important. You don't have to include every single activity. That would be ridiculous. But a good representative sample of even things that don't seem like hugely important, particularly in the early stages, is good. But they will have a tendency to, as they accrue, as it were, more and more learning experiences throughout, the index gets longer, kind of more detailed, and that actually tends to get more reflective. They absolutely have to be scrupulous about GDPR. If you make mistakes about GDPR in the actual world of work, we know that agencies can pay really significant price for this, as can individual social workers. So again, let's build up the professional habit of ensuring that does not happen. Don't use PLE names. Initials aren't always all that great anyway. If there was, it potentially might be possible to identify PLE from not just the initials, but other identifying characteristics. So let's just be kind of careful like that. I don't want to see case record numbers or identifiers from Mosaic or whatever system is involved either. And when we're saying, oh, this activity is PCF 1 to 9, well, some things are, but mainly not. Let's try to link the activity to the strongest link in the PCF. 1 to 9, it's kind of lazy, and I don't think it's always true, even though on occasion it can be. This is a kind of standard abbreviations. Not hugely bothered if people even wanted to change these, but there should be a kind of some sort of, there's a little column with abbreviations down the side. But there's a whole range of other things here that people have used at various different times, but number them. So if we had, for example, here, supervision notes, SUP, like supervision 1, 2, 3, etc., makes it much easier to track what's happening. Similarly, here, genogram 1, 2, 3, for example, whatever it happens to be. You can add new abbreviations, social work, particularly in this model. There's so many different employers, job roles, descriptions, ways of delivering services. There's no way that this could be exhaustive entirely, so it may be that you might have to invent your own. This is a little thing here, just as an example. I don't even know that it's a good example, but nonetheless, uh, the apprentice, me, has noted that significant learning for me here about preparing for visit and operation. I was in a hurry. I didn't read the file. I missed important information. Now, I'm kind of using this, but that's not untypical of what you see in some of the year 4 apprentices. It's not by any means entirely unusual. But here, there's a little bit of an indication about what happened, what the learning was, and maybe even what I might do differently in future. So it's relatively short. Really, it's an index, so we don't want a lengthy kind of description of things. I'm guessing that could be found elsewhere. But I'd like to have a sense of, well, what was the learning? So just going direct observation 1 and then putting the PCF date, et cetera, it's not really doing it, is it? Do you know what I mean? So we need to be put a little bit more detail in it. And of course, they're signed off, particularly at the end of the period. And again, by your signing it off, it kind of indicates that this stuff is real. It genuinely exists. It happened in the workplace. So you're kind of validating the whatchamacallit, the index and the evidence. So, I mean, really, that's about it. Um, Again, the IAT standards, you can find them here. The link, we've mentioned these before. I also mentioned the levels of progression, etc., etc. Nobody's officially mapped them. BASWOV mapped other standards, etc., etc. So we're kind of had to do our own job on this, and I'm not convinced that that was entirely correct all the time. So we do have a spreadsheet for this. I noticed that there's about 3 typos in this particular slide. That's because I did it this morning. I hope you forgive me the kind of level of incompetence involved in this. But nonetheless, if you gather the evidence well and align to the PCF, which is very clear, generally you can do a post hoc with the IAT standards. If you do a good job at the PCF, I'm pretty confident that we can rely on our mapping against the IAT also. Summary: apprentices gather evidence throughout the course, record this in the index. No original documents. I don't want to see original documents either pasted into the index or in portfolios or submissions of any description like that. No, we just don't do that. Signing indicates that the evidence exists, linked to learning. There's template, abbreviations, first indexes against PCF, and then we kind of start developing our work on the IATE. You'll get to know them a little bit better. In fact, they've only been updated in the last year or so, but don't worry, we'll get there and we'll make progress. No set number of pieces of evidence, but if I'm seeing 6 at the end of the first term, that's not doing it. Do you know what I mean? I always hesitate or am reluctant to put an actual number, but at the same time, I'm very clear about numbers that are not working for me. I'd probably like to see somewhere between 10 and 20 pieces of evidence in the first term. I'd like to see double that thereabouts by the end of the second term. There's plenty of learning opportunities out there. So it's a question of consistently recording those. Don't forget, business as usual activities are fine because you can it's a good way, in actual fact, to start to build that evidence base. And as ever, if you've any questions, ask your SRA or me if you feel so inclined. And I think you all have my contact details by now. Myself and the SRAs and other course team people welcome hearing from you. And so onwards and upwards, there'll be a little gap between the next sessions that are distributed. These sessions are really just to kind of set the tone. We'll look at values, ethics, skills, and some pieces about individual pieces of work that they have to do for their portfolio, and they will be along in due course. So hopefully that is of some value. And as ever, as I say numerous times, get in touch and enjoy your life. See you later. Bye.